expansion, and that can increase satiety. So it physiologically increases the experience of fullness. Whereas that same thing where you're like, hey, I've got a lot of volume, I've got a lot of food, that can increase satisfaction in that it takes you a long time to eat, right? It takes you longer to eat something that has a lot of volume. And for a lot of people, increasing the volume and increasing the time of eating makes them happier because if you're somebody that really likes eating, you get a psychological experience of increased pleasure as you're eating if you can do it for a longer period of time. So that's a way that one factor, volume, can affect both satiety and satisfaction. But sometimes it only affects one or the other. And so it's interesting to just think about as you're crafting your meals, are you hitting both? Are you hitting both the satiety lever? That is, I know that after this meal, by the end of this meal, I'm going to feel really like all my hunger is gone, that I'm not still hungry from a physiological perspective, and I also feel like darn good about what I ate. Like I feel like I got what I wanted out of the meal, and that's satisfaction. And I think ultimately both of those need to be met for at most of the time for us to feel truly happy with our way of eating. So I just wanted to bring that up. I'm not the only person ever talking about this. I actually saw it on social media and I thought, oh, I should talk about this. So satiety and satisfaction. That means that, your meal should be built around these topics. And as an example, right, when we wait too long between meals to the point where we might be incredibly hungry when we start the meal, it's going to be harder for us to reach satiety because that starting hunger point is so high. And so we need to think about more than just one thing as we're crafting how we're going to eat, how we're going to schedule our meals. And so anyway, that was my topic, my opening topic. If you have questions about that or anything else, please let me know. Now is the time. Please ask questions in the question box wherever the comments are. I'm streaming from StreamYard onto both uh, Facebook and YouTube. So wherever you want to see me, you can. And you can also catch this on the replay. So if those of you are watching on the replay, hello, glad to see. Well, I can't see you in either case, but I'm glad that you're here watching later. So greetings to all that have joined me. Hey, what kinds of things would you like to know? So I'll talk a little bit about my trip. I had a really good time. Most of my clothes are dirty now. I have to wash them. I went to see Ken Berry and Nisha Berry on their farm, and it was delightful in because I got to meet little Bonnie. Well, I'd met her that weekend at the summit, but I hadn't met her yet. She's still a new one, and so I'm really happy that I got to see that. Got to meet some more of their chickens and animals. I hadn't met Lily yet in person, so I was really happy to do that. She's a sweetie, smarty. And you gotta have a lot of respect for Ken and Nisha. They've got a lot on their plate and they do so much for people and their health. And putting on the summit was amazing. And I can't wait for next year. So if you guys if you haven't decided what you're doing next year, put going to Nashville for their next summit on your bucket list because it's going to be a good one. Hey Lisa, I am so glad. She said I'm new here. Welcome. Glad to have you join the club. Sylvia is listening while she's making dinner. What are you making, Sylvia? I made some marinated flank steak earlier today and cooked it up in advance. And then I made a mixed vegetable kind of thing. So it's sort of like broccoli beef, but with some other vegetables in there. I'll be having that for dinner when Eric gets home. He's out. And yeah, so that'll be my dinner, our dinner for a couple of nights. I don't make a new dinner every night. Who here makes a new dinner every night? Like I know there are people out there who are like, I hate leftovers. I'm a little crooked tonight. I hate leftovers, so I cook something new every single night. And I'm like, I mean, I have time to do that if I really want it. I got other priorities and I like leftovers. Eric and I will eat the same thing multiple nights very happily. So, I'm good with that. There's actually some study around weight loss and repetition, and they do actually find, we're all kind of unique, that we have our own ways, but on average, people who eat the same thing repetitively tend to have more successful weight loss during their weight loss phase. So, yep, Christine says she cooks, try to make extra. She doesn't cook every night. I get it. Lynn asked, um, how did you meet the berries and get to know them well enough to hang out? Well, they just, we just hit it off. I met Ken when I interviewed him for my show. And then I met Nisha because when Ken and I met over a computer connection. We didn't meet in person initially. We met online and I interviewed him about his book, Lies My Doctor Told Me. And gosh, we just had such a good time talking to each other that we kept chatting. And he said, you and my wife would really get along. And I was like, okay, well, I'd love to meet her. And then I met her at a conference when she came with Ken. Think it was actually. Hey, speaking of Debbie Hubs, it was I think on the low carb cruise. We both went on the low carb cruise. And yeah, that was the first time I met Ken in person. This was several years ago. And so we went on the low carb cruise, met Ken in person, and met Nisha for the first time. And it was like instant best friends. Nisha and I got along so well. And we spent a week together just hanging out on the low carb cruise. And by the end of that, we were like besties. So that is how I got to know Ken and Nisha. So if you guys want to make friends um, that are also low carb and keto, wonderful people, Debbie, if you want to throw the link into the chat field here uh, for the low carb cruise, how people can find out more information about it, Dr. Barry and Nisha and Nurse Cindy and the Sykeses, which Keto Savage and um, a lot of other amazing people will be on the low carb cruise coming up. And so, yeah, you guys should come. Anyway, you can meet your own friends. All right, what did I miss? Yep, okay, we got lots of leftovers. Hey, Paula from New Mexico, glad to have you. Scott says we make dinner almost every night. Leftovers are for lunch. All right, I get that. Yeah, and if I had a ton of kids that I was trying to feed, I bet I wouldn't have as many leftovers, right? Because it's just I don't cook, but there's just two of us, so there's a lot left over. Melanie says, as a bona fide food addict, no intuitive cues for fullness or satiety. I just have to stop, and I'm not sure if I'm eating too much um, or not enough. I have gained 45 pounds in 10 weeks of strict carnivore. All right. Well, 45 pounds would be a lot to gain in 10 weeks. That is a rate of about 4.5 pounds a week. So for you, I might, because you don't have any intuitive cues. Now, some people do start to gain some cues when they eat carnivore for a while because some of their trigger foods go away. But there are some people that just have some really mixed up signals. So I would suggest maybe starting to track your macros so that you have an objective measure of what you're eating because it sounds to me like maybe you don't and start to maybe put some brakes on what you're doing. Um, for most people, I don't suggest tracking, especially when they start carnivore, because sometimes their natural hunger signals come up where they weren't happening before. But if you've gone 10 weeks and you've gained 45 pounds. Now, if you listen to Kelly Hogan ever, Kelly Hogan is amazing. She went carnivore like decades ago. And she has done some experimenting with higher fat, higher protein recently. Very interesting to hear her talk. She just seems like the nicest lady. Um, and when she first went fully carnivore, like not trying to overly restrict, she did gain, I think she said 23 pounds over several months. Um, And then eventually her natural satiety, she'd been like starving herself for so long that her body kind of needed a reset, needed to be more nourished for a while. So, Melanie, potentially if you've been significantly under eating for a good portion of your life, overly restricting, then there might be some natural weight gain that needs to happen to stabilize your system. But that's a pretty rapid gain. And I might just check in on what you're eating. So start to track if you're not already doing so. I also would say, think about like portion size of meal, in terms of maybe not eating just constantly all day, but starting to set some limits around what you're eating. If you truly have no ability, like you don't feel any different when you've eaten a pound of steak than you did before you ate anything for the day. Like there's something going on there that you need to check in on. So I would maybe start tracking then. I don't recommend it for everybody. In certain circumstances, it's probably worthwhile. Terry says, I use the same veggies and meat base every evening, but change the seasoning and sauces. Absolutely, absolutely great idea. Suzanne says she cooks on Sunday. Sylvia says, cheeseburger with indigo Neely's bread. I just made some today. Traveling, I didn't have any. So I have, jumping around here. Michael's mommy says, I'm needing tips for the psychological hunger. I just want to eat. I tend to drink a lot of water. Just sometimes I want a snack. Okay. So I would say, if you're having trouble not snacking, and I think that snacking is more psychological often than physiological. And I would say that, but sometimes adding some help physiologically can be beneficial. So the first thing is you're already drinking a lot of water, but I would say make your water interesting. So make some iced tea, make something unsweetened, or sweetened with something like non-impactful in terms of weight loss. And I would say, when you want to reach for a snack, reach for a beverage. You can also do things like people call them activity snacks. So when you naturally feel like reaching for a snack, go for a walk instead. Like even a 5-minute walk. Change where you're sitting. Put on a song. Do something different instead of eating. Because sometimes we think we want a snack because it's going to alleviate some boredom or change our state. And so do other things that will alleviate boredom or change your state. Music, movement, that kind of stuff. Um, and the other thing is make sure you're eating enough over the course of a day. I know it sounds weird, but if we undereat, remember when I said if you are super hungry all the time, it's going to be really hard to feel satisfied. So make sure you're eating enough when you are eating so that you're not wanting to eat between meals quite as much. I'm going to put this on the screen. Debbie is the host of the Low Carb Cruise, www.lowcarbcruise.com. I will be there. Ken Berry will be there. Anisha Berry will be there. Lots of amazing people will be there. And Debbie is the organizer and the hostess with the mostest. So if you're interested in hearing more about the cruise, which is in May, is it May, Debbie? I think it's May. And it's going out of Texas. Then check out the website and you can find out more. So there you go. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Melissa. Oh, she apologizes for her tardiness. I know we were waiting for you, Melissa. Where have you been? Just kidding. And Debbie says you can email info@lowcarbcruise.com for pricing. It's really reasonable. The cruise, I was shocked. Before I went on my first cruise, I was shocked. It is actually, if you bring a friend, so you're sharing a room, or you bring a hubby or a wife, it's all inclusive, really. The food's included. And so, I mean, I guess the day excursions aren't, but it's very good. It's a very good value. That's what I wanted to say compared to most vacations where everything just stacks up in terms of costs. I got you, Sylvia. Hey, Debbie and Reno. David also likes leftovers, team leftovers. Um, Suzanne says, I am now on NP thyroid meds and DHEA. Great. Super good. Suzanne, I read them in the wrong order. I had my appointment yesterday with Ron Rigby. Wow, what a difference to get a keto doctor. Great. Ron Rigby, I've met him. We don't know each other well, but I've met him and he seems like he's on the ball. Lisa at June 4th. The low carb cruise is June 4th out of Galveston, Texas. The low carb cruise is we're on a big cruise ship. Not everyone on the cruise ship is low carb, but we are a crew of low carbers in a sea of carb people. So it's like a group of people that choose to go on this cruise together. We are seated together at dinner. Um, we On the days where you're at sea, there are talks from these various people I've mentioned. So you'll get to hear from Ken Berry, Nisha Salisbury, me, Nurse Cindy, the Sykeses, Robert is Keto Savage, and talking about, various topics that apply to low carb and keto folks, carnivore folks. And then while the menu on the cruise isn't all keto, we tell our waiters what we want. And so it's friendly if you have a low carb or non low carb spouse, they are welcome. But a lot of us make adjustments to the way that the food is served, and that's totally doable. And so, yeah, it's an experience where you get to go on a cruise and then talk about low carb keto topics. So it's like kind of a combination between a vacation and a conference. That's what I'd say. All right. That was what am I everything is drifting. You guys, my house is kind of a mess because I came home last night pretty late and I just dumped all my stuff and I started putting it away. But you know how it goes when you get back from a trip. There's lots to unpack. All right. I'm currently cooking all my meat in Florida with a hurricane headed our way. I'm a director of nursing and have to hunker down on my job. They have a ton of snacks. Please pray for me. Yeah, I can imagine that's very challenging with the hurricane situation. I would say, do your best. And uh, you know, if things get dicey and you end up eating some things that you don't normally eat, just try not to go out of control about it. Really, honestly, most of the damage, I mean, there are some exceptions. Some of us have autoimmune issues, things that cause flare ups. We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to feel in pain. But most of the damage from eating off plan is psychological, not physiological, right? It's that thought process that you've gone off, that you haven't been on plan, you've been, bad. So some of these thoughts about ourselves, that it means something about who we are or what it means about our future success, that we get very hard on ourselves. One of the real predictors of long-term success with any diet, but with weight loss specifically, is having a flexible mindset. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a flexible approach to eating, right? Doesn't mean you have to have a balanced meal, right? Doesn't mean you have to include all of the foods. It means that you can't think, oh, I did something bad, I've ruined everything. That's a fixed mindset. In this case, fixed does not mean the opposite of broken. It actually means like fixed in place, like immovable. So it's the opposite of flexible. And instead, you want a flexible mindset. You want to be able to think, well, that didn't go according to plan, but tomorrow can go better, or my next meal can go better. Like, right? It's not, I did something wrong. I am bad. I've ruined everything. It's today didn't go according to plan, and tomorrow could be totally different. And I can turn this around in an instant. So the real damage is not a meal. It's not even a day of whatever you did. You can undo that very quickly. Again, as long as don't eat something you're allergic to. That could cause some problems. It's really what you tell yourself about it and how you think about it. Oh, thanks, Kevin. Kevin suggests to hit the like button and the subscribe button and all the buttons and the notification buttons. By the way, did you know I even have like stars and super thanks and things? So you can even send me a little cash if you wanted to. Those are all options for you if you want to contribute to the cause. But I just appreciate the follow and the thanks. I just hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which was very exciting. So thank you all who are already subscribed. I really appreciate you. So true. It's the guilt from going off even for a dare meal. Yep, that guilt is a killer. Don't let it get you. Don't let it get you. It's not about what you do. I have really changed my tune on this a little bit. When I first started keto, I was pretty strident about things in terms of saying, not wanting, like, I'd be like, you don't have to go off, you don't have to cheat. And I still feel that way. Like, people will be like, oh, you're only human, live a little. And I certainly don't subscribe to that. Like, um, the I don't subscribe to the like anything is fine because YOLO, you only live once. That's what that stands for. But I do think we all make choices. Our choices should be conscious. We are adults. There's no such thing as cheating because your body is always watching. You're not getting away with anything. But we sometimes make choices. I sometimes make choices to eat things that I don't normally eat or that aren't going to support fat loss because I'm a human and sometimes I make choices like that. All our choices are not about one thing only. So I would say it's really important, though, whatever choices you make, you own them. And then you know that you can always make different choices because life is full of them. Say, hey, Ken, thanks, guys, for celebrating with me. I'm excited about it. I am happy to be here with you guys. I'm a little bit fatutzt, as my mom would say. I don't know if that's a real word, but she used to say it. It might be Yiddish or it might be a my mom word, which basically means a little all over the place. What else is new? Um, so there you go. Kevin said you're welcome. All right. Yes, it does look odd. More people should like me. I need it for my ego. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. I am super happy that we are all here together. It is the end of September. Can you believe it? Crazy. Did you guys know that Nisha Berry and I, when I was in Tennessee last month, week, month, week, last week, last week, we did a Cook With Me live on her channel where we made some really delicious topping for some brie. That was fun, called a bacon jam. Really good. And I think you can put that on everything. So go ahead and watch that. And we're going to have our cookbook, our holiday cookbook, updated in the next week or two. So I will keep you posted. Don't buy it yet. It's not updated. If you buy it now, you buy the old copy. But if you buy it in a week or two, when I tell you it's the new copy, then you guys get a brand new refreshed version with a bunch of added recipes. So that is what's going on in the world. Today I made marinated flank steak, and that I'm turning into broccoli beef tonight. And I made some kneely bread. I have a new variation with the indigo kneely bread. If you guys aren't familiar, are you guys familiar with the indigo kneely bread? It's very good. Basically, it's that egg white protein bread, but she makes some variations to it. She just started doing a version where she adds a bunch of butter, so definitely check that out if you like higher fat. I like my bread a little less fat because um, I like to put more fat on it, right? I like the balance and I like to balance that out for macros, but I have started to add an egg yolk at the end. I whip in an egg yolk. It does sort of like deflate it a bit, but it's so much softer. So it's really good. I use butter powder and one whole egg yolk in the recipe. Um, Melissa says that was an awesome cook with me video. I hope to see more. Well, I got to go visit the berries more often, which I'm okay with. Lisa says that's why I'm here. That's when I was introduced to your channel. Well, I'm so glad that you've joined me. We do this every Tuesday night on my channel, just a little chat. Um, People are saying that bacon jam would be good on some sliced jicama. Absolutely. See, I said that right instead of jimica. Jicama, jicama. All right, I am from California. I can say things like that. Vicky says she got everything to make the brie. Ken says, will it be a gout-free recipe? Well, there's no gout in the recipe. I can never guarantee that that gout will not occur in someone. I can say that one of the leading causes of gout is metabolic syndrome. So as you reduce your metabolic syndrome, as you get healthier, the likelihood is you will have less gout. So that is always good. But some people are reactive to certain foods. The recipe contains bacon, vinegar, spices, tomatoes, and onion. That's what's in it. Hey, Karen. Hey, is it Kiara or Shira? Oh, probably Shira. Probably Shira. Enjoyed your talk at the PhD Summit. Thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoyed speaking at the PhD Summit. It was a lot of fun. Semi-retired Bob says, yes, go visit the Marys more. Love the cooking videos. All right. If Nisha's still here, I'm coming back. Gonna cook some more. S. White says, no gout for me since going carnivore in April. Off gout medication also. Awesome. Kevin says, I was introduced to your channel last week and you were live with Dr. Barry. All righty. Thanks, Kevin. I'm glad you're here. Shira. Shira, I think is what we're saying here. Or, yeah. Is it? Okay. Ken says, sounds delicious. I would chance gout. All right. Well, you got to do what you got to do. I don't think I would chance gout because gout sounds awful. I've never had a problem with it, but it is something that happens for some people and not the best thing. But it is true. I know a lot of people, when they went keto, their gout didn't completely go away, but they went from a lot of attacks to a few attacks, everyone. So it really switched up. We are happy to have less gout attacks for sure. What are the main implicators in gout? Some people do have problems with purines, and purines are in some foods like I think shrimp and bacon, but more of a problem with things like alcohol and fructose. So there you go. Enid said, I bought your book on blood labs in August. Can't wait to get the book. Yes, the book is now finished. The book is being run through the printer. It should get printed sometime in the next few days to a week. And then once that's done, the book will start shipping. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll get out there pretty soon. So those of you that have been wondering where the heck your book is, it is still in process. Ken and I sat down when I was in Tennessee and added a few little things, which is delayed it a week or so, but we figured you'd probably appreciate a few things that we fixed up and added. So it was worth it. And we know you've had a long wait. Sorry, we did warn you. It was a pre-sale purchase. And so you did get the uh, digital copy to read until then. So we're going to update those in that information. And once everything is done and I get confirmation that we're shipping, I'm not shipping it myself. The shipper is shipping it. And so I will let you guys know via email if you've already bought your book. Semi-retired Bob, I could probably just call you Bob, right? I suffered with gout for 40 years. I've not had an attack, but I'm doing the Lion diet. Jolene, day 4 of carnivore. I feel wonderful. Great. Exciting. Suzanne said, if I bought the ebook, can I get a new download? Yes, Suzanne, when the ebook, when the physical book is shipping, I will also update the ebook online and you can go back and download the updated copy. So you will all have access to that as well. So there you go. Not yet. It's not up yet, but I want to make sure everybody gets the best information possible. So it will be up. Terry says, did I mention lymphedema last week? How is that affected by metabolic or immune disorders? I actually mentioned lipedema, which is similar, but lipedema is swelling of the fat cells, whereas lymphedema is an issue with your lymph, right? With more swelling to do with like edema and that sort of thing. I'm not an expert on these, but lipedema is hardening and sort of this there's a different feeling to the fat, and the fat in lipedema is sort of more, it gets you want to call that, there's like a matrix of tissue over it, so it's harder to lose. And so you'll often see people with lipedema. You've ever seen somebody who's like got a fairly small upper body, but it looks like they're wearing like bags of fat on their legs, right? It's almost like pants. They're like, like sweatpants that have like the tight ankle and then there's like a rounding right above it. That's an example of lipedema, kind of like just this hanging fat. And it most often happens on the legs. It can also happen on the arms. and it's fat that does not go anywhere near as easily as other places, and it's different quality fat. Siobhan Huggins is somebody that knows quite a bit about this topic, so you can look her up. But absolutely, it looks like keto can have a very beneficial effect on both lipedema and lymphedema, and I would definitely look that up. Like I said, I'm not an expert on it, but Siobhan Huggins is somebody who knows quite a bit about the topic, and there's a conference that she did a speech on. If I can find the links for it, I'll put it in the notes after the call. Melinda, wondering my thoughts. Is there a keto out there? Oh, there is a keto out there for women with a thought it works with our hormones. Have you heard of it? I mean, people use all sorts of things to sell their programs, I'm going to say. So um, there are many, many versions of keto. And some of them might be more about hormonal approaches. Um, I would say that for as many times as a woman has told me her program that she's selling is specifically geared towards women's hormones, it works for some and doesn't work for others. And so I would just say there's some bio individuality. And there's definitely things that as women we need to take into account when we're doing any approach to nutrition, because we do have a lot more variability in terms of our hormones fluctuations, right? Like I can tell you as an example, the week before you get your period, you have a higher metabolic rate, right? You are often hungrier, and that's in part because your metabolic rate increases. So that's interesting for sure, right? So these hormones do have an effect on various things in our body, but it's kind of individual, and I don't know you need a special program other than knowing what works for you. Um, Erica says, will the addendum for Canadians and Europeans be in the update? So we just kind of missed the deadline on making it in the physical printed book, but we will make it available to everybody that they can download and print out. It will just be a couple of pages. So we're going to make sure that that people can get that information, but it won't be in this version of the printed book, but it will be available to everyone. So what she's asking about is our book, all of the lab numbers are in US units. And we want to make sure that if you're not living in the US, you can still use the information. So we will be putting out an addendum piece of information. There are a bunch of charts in the back of the book, and we are converting those to Canadian and European numbers. But that's a bigger task than we had envisioned. And so we don't want to hold everything up for that, but we will be putting that out via a download available for people. Thanks, Betsy. I was like, Betsy, I know and trust you, but I don't know what that link is. Betsy has added, I will put it on screen. Betsy has added this link for a talk with Siobhan Huggins. So you can go there. It will be in the notes. All right. Okay. What other questions do we have out there? Hey, Joy. Hey, Alabama. Hey, Tennessee. I've been reunited with my sippy cup, which makes me happy. Love a good sippy cup. Um, all right. All right, guys. Hey, Goose. Nice to have you on the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I enjoyed being home last night, and I am gonna hope. I don't know. It's always a love-hate relationship with putting stuff away. Karen says, "Hey, Kim, got the extra tests as requested. No CGM though. All right, well, let's check them out." Terry said, "Which will bring more satiety and last longer, 80/20 or 93/7 beef?" So those are two different grades of ground beef. So 80/20 would be a lot higher fat, right? It's 80%. Uh, is it 80% of the? I don't remember what the calories, I think it's 20% fat versus 7% fat. So obviously 80/20 is a higher fat cut. That's a question for you. So some people get more satiety from a high protein approach. Some people get more satiety from a, yeah, 20% fat. Some people get more satiety from a balanced fat and protein approach. And so we all have to know what works best for us. I think that, and at different times, like once upon a time, my body really did much better with like 80/20, which is a higher fat meat. I think 80/20 is close to 1 to 1 in terms of fat to protein, in terms of grams. And then now I do better on a higher protein, lower fat, not low fat, but lower fat approach. So I would actually get more satiety from 93.7 if you were asking calorie for calorie, right? Because say 4 ounces of 80/20 is going to have significantly more calories than 4 ounces of 93.7, right? Because there are more calories per ounce in something with higher fat because fat is higher per gram. So, so essentially you'd be saying, do you get more satiety eating? I'd have to look up these numbers to be sure I'm getting this right. 4 ounces of 80/20 versus 6 ounces of 93.7. And I would say right now, probably I'd get more satiety from the 93.7, but that wasn't always the case. The other thing that we got to know is when you cook 80/20, there's a lot of fat left in the pan. And if you're not counting that in your macros, if you dump that out, right, then you're not actually eating 20% fat. You're eating a leaner cut. So 80/20, if you cook it and then you throw that fat away or you just don't eat it, you're really eating more like 90/10. So you got to know that as well. All right. So Erica says, what are my thoughts on testing for omega-3? I think it can be helpful for some people, certainly. I don't think you got to do it regularly, but I've done it and it was interesting to see what my omega-3 to omega-6 ratio was. And then it kind of can push you towards fixing anything still outlying. Joseph says, okay, I've got a question. Thanks, Joseph. We don't have a show if you don't have a question. I eat sardines almost every day. I'm worried about the high amount of arsenic. Do you think that's a problem? And what about the purines? So, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know a ton about the quantity of arsenic in sardines. So that one I can't answer, but I can say that often, when you've got little fish, uh, if you're eating something every day, what I would probably do is look up the amount of arsenic and also where does it come from? Is it part of the canning process issue? So would some companies have a lower potential risk with that? Um, I don't worry too much about purines, quite honestly, unless somebody already has a gout problem. And so you have to look at, how can I get the best quality sardines? I certainly know lots of people that eat sardines daily and have no problem with that. So I'm not a fish expert, quite honestly, but I would look up what the how much arsenic, what is the risk, and then take that into account. Ken says, my gout gets worse when I go to Nebraska, not so bad when I'm home in South Dakota. I think it can be related to humidity. And so I think it can be a weather thing. I don't think it's just a state thing. I don't think like your joints are like, we don't like South Dakota, but it might have to do with the weather. Betsy dips her 80/20 burgers in fat. So you see that we all have to do what works for us. Debbie says, Deb, sorry, said I like 85%. I do too. I would say 85% to me tastes the best and works the best for me overall. I don't love 93.7. Honestly, it's dry. Dry. I like 85. And then in some things I like the 90. But yeah. Terry says, when they say the calories of the meat, do they mean using the rendered fat or not? Okay, I answered that one. Goose says, do I have any information if keto helps fibromyalgia? So fibromyalgia is an autoimmune related condition. And I would say my personal opinion is that keto can help almost anything autoimmune related. So I would definitely do some experimentation and see, but definitely, in my opinion, keto is helpful for anything at all touching on autoimmune conditions because it's going to lower inflammation. It's gonna help clean out some things that your body doesn't react well to. So, so I would say, my opinion would be if I had any autoimmune conditions, I would absolutely try a very clean keto approach. Debbie says we just got a Ninja Creamy, and we're wondering if you have any dairy-free recipes. So I'm a big fan of the Ninja Creamy, as you know from various discussions, but I do a lot of dairy in it. So most of my recipes are dairy based, but anything protein shake wise. So we've done this, and it's very good. Take some Equip protein. So that's beef protein isolate. The brand is Equip. They make vanilla. They make chocolate, and they make strawberry. I've never tried the strawberry. But I've tried the vanilla and the chocolate. I like the vanilla better when I kind of turn it into a little more of a chai situation. Um, so you you want to do like make a protein shake. So you make the Equip with like a nut milk or coconut milk. I would think actually the vanilla, some cinnamon, and coconut milk would be delicious together. It's kind of like a little fall flavory kind of thing. Um, and so make a protein shake that way in the same ratio you do for any protein shake and throw that in the creamy. That would be what I would do. So a dairy-free type protein and then with a dairy-free milk. So those would probably be the way that I would go about it. But coconut milk, from what I understand, um, is a fabulous uh, uh, thing to put in the creamy. Deb says it definitely helps her fibromyalgia. So there you go. Kevin buys the 7323 because I'm definitely not drinking the grease. So you use a higher fat meat and then you let the grease go. So you're getting a slightly lower fat effect. So Terry, I think to answer his question, 7327 would be 27% fat. So that's a very high fat burger. Excuse me. But the the 23% fat is when it's in its raw form, not its cooked form. So, um, Catherine says, "What yogurt do I buy?" Nisha said, "You eat yogurt." I always have some Fage, Fage yogurt in the fridge. It's a plain Greek yogurt. I get the unflavored. I use it for all sorts of things. I make sauces out of it. I enjoy using it like on things, in things. So I can use it both sweet and savory. If I want it sweet, I'll add a few drops of stevia to it, add some fruit. I put it in mixes with fruit in my creamy and make frozen yogurt out of it. So my go-to is usually Fage. But I also will get Too Good yogurt often and enjoy those. They're flavored and sweetened. And so, if you don't like the sweetener they use, then I don't even remember what sweetener they use. But if you don't like that, then just get the plain. I certainly think the plain is what, some people would say are a little bit cleaner ingredients, but I don't really have a problem with anything that's in the Too Good yogurt. Too Good yogurt is filtered, so it's only got 3 grams of total carbs for a container of yogurt. So if you're worried about carbs and wanting to keep them very low, it's probably the best option in terms of the lowest carbs. For the equivalent amount of Fage, it's not bad. It's like 5 grams of total carbs. And so it is a little higher carb than other things, but I don't think those carbs are really a problem for a lot of people. But some people who are sensitive to dairy do get a little bit more of a response to yogurt, but I do not. I am metabolically healthy and love yogurt. It's a great source of protein. Um, S. White says, after losing 116 pounds, wow, since April, that's fast. I lost the same 2 to 3 all month this month. You think my body is taking a break? Yeah, you lost a lot of weight really fast. May, June, what month are we in? May, June, July, August. Wait, you lost 116 pounds in 5 months? Is that right? Or did you mean of last year? That's crazy. That's a lot of weight really fast. I think your body needs a break. It's a lot of weight really fast. So great job, and I don't know what to say. That's almost unheard of speed of weight loss. So um, yeah, okay, yeah, that's really fast. It might be, yeah, your body's probably taking a little break. It's a lot of weight. Congratulations, that's amazing. Um, all right, guys, we'll wrap it up after a few more questions. So don't hold back. What else would you like? Yeah, April. Wow, five 5 months. What's that? 112. Okay, I'm rounding. 120 pounds. So wait, 100 pounds in 5 months is 20 pounds a month. That's wow. All right. Kevin says it's just a higher fat content, so you don't have to worry about adding butter or ghee. Yeah, and that's the other thing to know about ground beef or really any meat with fat in it, but especially ground beef. The rarer you eat it, the more fat it will retain, right? Because less fat renders out. So if you like your burgers well done, first, I don't like them that way, so don't cook them that way for me. But if you like your burgers well done, you're going to end up with less fat because more of that fat will cook out. Whereas if you like your burgers fairly rare, it'll retain more of the fat because it's the inside hasn't rendered all that fat out, right? And so like if I cook some 90% ground beef, there's hardly any fat in the pan because there's not so much fat that a ton of it renders out. But when I've cooked 80/20, there's like a layer of fat in the pan. So when I did some testing on this and some research, I found that have if you buy 85% ground beef and then you cook it, and drain it, it basically comes closer to like 90% uh, ground beef. Um, Ken says, I wonder where South Dakota ranks as far as non-gout causing beef production as opposed to Nebraska. Oh, are you the gout capital of the world? I don't know. I don't know where more people have gout. I have heard that there's a lot more gout in the South. I don't know if that's related to the fact that the South also has uh, a lot more metabolic disease than other states. I would think that's more correlated than maybe the weather or something like that, because in a place where people have higher rates of obesity, more metabolically damaged, then you're gonna see a lot more gout. Um, keep Austin Keto says I buy 80/20, can't eat 90/10, too dry to me. Yeah, it definitely does happen. S White says, yeah, because you have the sweet tea. Yeah, that'll do it, right? All right. We should do a gout study. All the places that have gout. Yeah, keep Austin keto. The 90/10, I do find it useful though for doing things like making like keto lasagna and stuff like that, because then I don't really have to drain it and I'm cooking it, and then it's going to be in sauce and there's going to be cheese, and in those ways I don't mind the drier ground beef because I've added all the sauce and the stuff to it, and it just works out better in the recipe. Um, but definitely if I'm going to eat a burger, I would rather it be an 85% burger. Like I said, I just feel like the 80% it gets like a little bit the extra fat gets a little wasted. So in my mind. So but you eat what you like and what works for you and helps you meet your goals. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. It was really nice spending some time with you. I appreciate all your attention, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.